Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the calendar's astrologers. This is part of our music series, and this is Pink, born September 8th, 1979, 3 p.m., Doylestown, PA, Pennsylvania. It's funny because we just did the chart of Andrea Bocelli, another Virgo, with a group of planets in Virgo, and that's Pink too. Maybe Pink could have been an opera singer given a different opportunity. She is born with the sun at 15 degrees Virgo, Mercury in Virgo as well, just like Andrea. But Saturn in Virgo conjunct the sun and Venus in Virgo. So she has Mercury in rulership, in that social position, and Venus in the very introvert position in the same house, in the 10th house, with Saturn. So all about career in the 10th house, the house of career. So this was a person who was very focused on having a career from early on. She has Sagittarius rising, 25 degrees Sagittarius rising, the position of the center of the Galactic Center. Very powerful esoteric degree. There's stuff going on with her that is not obvious to people around her. She has Neptune conjunct the rising, highly intuitive, very sensitive. Neptune in what's called the Gogolon spot, just above the horizon, which is a powerful success energy. She has the midheaven in the 11th house, conjunct Pluto in Libra, which is all about contracts, but also means that it was real important to her to earn a lot of money. And they see this. I mean, some people get into this, say, I think there's a lot of money on this. I think we should really work on this. And then she has Jupiter in the 9th house, Jupiter in its own house in Leo. So being on stage, being a performer, traveling, it really appeals to her. And that Jupiter is exactly trine the rising. Now she's saying she's born at 3 p.m. It could be on or off a little bit, but it's probably pretty close. So that Jupiter supporting that rising and supporting the Neptune really empowers that rising. It gives her a lot of energy. She has Mars in Cancer, which is funny because with, this powerhouse Jupiter rising, then you have Mars in Cancer, which is a detriment position. It's very personal, it's very internal, but it's Mars in its own house. And this is kind of interesting. Mars in its own house, the 8th house, right? But in detriment. Jupiter in its own house, right? Mercury in rulership. Venus in fall. The moon's in Aries, but these planets, when you have planets that are dignified, either the extrovert or the introvert version, the social or the personal version, what it does is it makes people very relatable. You find there's people who, especially among actors and actresses, when they have a lot of these factors, it means there's lots of places where they're very identifiable to other people. And that's an important thing, that people have to be able to relate to them. There's a lot of features in her personality that are very relatable. What's funny is that she is, in many ways, a very modern performer. She's born in 1979, but she was one of the first of the new version of musicians. The big difference here is what was the hemisphere where they were focused. You look at the older musicians' charts, going back in people born in the 50s, for instance, 40s and 50s, most of the chart is below the horizon, which means that their personal life, their internal life, is very rich. And they maybe have one planet above the horizon. You see this with actors from that period too. One planet above the horizon, which means they have this very deep personal life, and then it projects out into the outer world through this one planet. It's like a fountainhead. She has most of her planets above the horizon, except for her moon. Her moon is the tip. It's down in the 5th house, and it's in Aries, a very creative position, trine the rising. So basically at 18 degrees, it trines the Neptune and the rising, and they both trine the Jupiter. She's got a grand trine in fire. This is a very creative position, going from fire houses, the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th. This is a very creative person. And yet here she's got the Sun, Mercury, Saturn in Virgo, and Venus in Virgo with the North Node. in this kind of very kind of simple working girl, we're going to get things done. We're very perfectionistic. And that's one of the things you do see with these musicians and with composers. They're very perfectionistic. Their willingness to really focus on those details again and again and again and again and again. It's really, it's much stronger in her than it's obvious. And the reason it's not obvious is because she has Sagittarius rising. She makes it look easy. That's the thing about Sagittarius rising. They make it look so easy. Drives you crazy, especially with that Jupiter towards the rising. She just goes out there and she just does it. It was so easy for her. Yeah, after she spent like endless numbers of hours perfecting it back in the studio. And then in the 12th house, it was funny, this is now the third chart I think we've done practically in a row, with Uranus in the 12th house. In her case, it's Scorpio. I think Nora Jones had that position, and Sting had the position too, also in the 12th house. The 12th house is the studio. Uranus has a lot to do with being a technician, technical issues. Uranus has a lot to do with where your sizzle is. Her sizzle really comes out in the studio. Put her in a protected environment, and it really comes out. It's in Scorpio, so it's driven. And the Uranus is trine the Mars. So you put her in the studio and she takes charge. She takes charge of that studio. She's a force, which like I said, is not obvious, right? The Uranus is sextile the Sun, is sextile the Saturn, It's not obvious because she's got the Sag rising. She makes it look easy, but you get her behind the scenes. This is a very driven artist who's very perfectionistic and a great manager of other people. So it's a fascinating chart. And like I said, she is part of that new generation that so much of their life is out in the open. All the planets are up above. So much of their life is visible to other people. So many people know about, not only about her art, they know about her life. And that's something you see with a lot of the newer artists, thanks to social media and websites and, the obsession with that. So that's Pink, fascinating chart, part of our music series. Please come see us on Tuesdays when we do these portraits. Come see us on Friday when we do our forecasts. You can find those at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. Please subscribe because it's a big help to us. And if you go to planetarycalendar.com, you can find the planetary calendar that you can use with the forecast so that you know what's going on. Until next time, be well.